Afternoon, racing fans. Welcome to Get Tied On. I'm Tom Amello. He's Michael Kippen. This is the Wizard. We're here to recap a very interesting Whitney weekend. Great race. We'll talk about the race, but we'll also talk about, Michael, we respect when bettors cash, but we're also interested in and somewhat curious, even amazed when there are betting coups. And we've got one of those to talk about after we talk about the Whitney. So, the Whitney was advertised as probably the greatest field in quite some time. The fact that the Philly Nitrogen was entered, we talked about the fact, kudos to the Connections trainer Mark Cassie for letting her go. We talked about the race, and it kind of played out in a lot of ways exactly the way we talked about it, and you talked about it. There was going to be a fast pace. The question was, would Magnitude be pressured by the filly? Would she hold up? What would Sovereignty do? They were doing everything to make Baeza a better gate horse. Would that make a difference? Some yes, some no. How did you see the outcome?
Well, I saw the outcome right in the paddock. I called my son and I said, I haven't seen a beast like Sovereignty, or any horse look like this since Seattle Slew. I mean, he literally was breathing fire. I went through every horse and they all looked really good, but he was outstanding. I watched the race from the rooftop, and my eyeballs were in the front. Yes, Tom?
You should make it clear that when you're watching the race from the rooftop, you're using those Cyclops binoculars of yours, which really give you the full feel. Most folks aren't looking at them with the kind of goggles and binocs that the race callers are. You are.
These are the highest powered binoculars you can get, and that gives me the opportunity to really watch how riders are sitting on their horse.
Yeah.
And I can scan the back of the pack and the front of the pack with one movement of the binoculars quickly and back and forth. So I saw the duel on the front end, and I saw, Nitrogen putting it to Magnitude right away. You couldn't see on the TV how far back Sovereignty was when they entered the backstretch. But I saw it. I saw Alvarado sitting high in the saddle. He had kind of a loose rein. He was just biding his time. On the far turn, I saw that Magnitude was struggling to keep up with the pressure that Nitrogen was putting on him. I saw White Barrio sort of treading in quicksand out there wide. I saw Baeza where he was trying to make his rally, but it wasn't what on the far turn, you saw Alvarado sit down on the horse, get a tighter hold on the reins. I knew he was going to swing out for clear sailing. And just with a slight movement of the right hand and the shake of the rein, you saw Sovereignty responding. When they turned for home, you knew Magnitude was dead. White Barrio was going nowhere. Baeza was just plodding along. The horse that was the Pletcher horse, Antiquarian, was actually fighting hard behind the speed duel between horses. Magnitude proved he needs a long rest as the stretch run began to percolate. White Barrio is done. I mean, I don't see, he got the fast track. It was a little moisture to the track, but it was okay enough to run for him to run a better race. Sovereignty just was full of run, just gobbled up ground with a long stride, easily the winner. So impressive. Love Saratoga, but my hat's off also to Nitrogen. Nitrogen ran tremendous to be second. I don't know a filly in the land who would ever have a chance to smell this horse in a race. And I think the great matchup, and I think it may be in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. It could be. If not that, it's going to be the Breeders' Cup, is hopefully Forever Young against Sovereignty. That matchup is worth the price of admission.
Yeah, we had talked about Jekyll and Hyde Antiquarian, and it looked like Jekyll showed up today. He ran a very brave race, narrowly, not narrowly. The filly was drifting and he was still coming, but he wasn't going to get her.
Yeah, it's so funny how when a horse drifts a deep stretch, most of the time you think they're going to be third, and they come again.
Well, Richard Migliori told us, when we interviewed him for Get Tied On, how the worst thing that a jockey can do when a horse is drifting in the lane is try to straighten him out. He says, don't interfere, because the horse is still more going forward than going to the left, and you don't want to stop the forward move. And so you're right. You see them drifting and you're figuring, well, it's over, but they're still going forward. And she's a brave horse.
Yeah, that was actually, I was really cold the first part of the day. And then I had a really good pick. I mean, it was probably the best pick I've made all meet, is the European horse that came in. And I knew that horse. She was the only one cutting back in distance. So she had the bottom. I knew she was probably going to be on or near the lead. Also, this trainer is really good. He won the 1,000 guineas. He's won the 2,000 guineas.
Yeah, we talked about him.
Yeah, so when she got out to a clear lead and was able to rate comfortably, I certainly needed that winner to come home. And then fortunately for us, we love Sovereignty. We got 2-1 on Sovereignty. And after being odds on in his prior 4 races, we predicted right that this was third off a layoff back at Saratoga. Didn't like the greasy, sloppy seal track at Churchill. And just was clearly best. Nitrogen right there too, performing at a great, as great as it could be.
I think we should speak briefly about the test stakes and Explorers Burst. I may be wrong, but isn't this one of the first horses for a big race that Bob Baffert has prepped at Churchill Downs rather than out at Santa Anita and then shipped up here? He's pretty much based there now.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't really think about that, but you're correct in saying that. He had in the paddock, he had some blood on the right back foot, and that was from like a scratch that happened not at the barn but there. But it was fine. It was weird. It was just something weird. I didn't know what to make of it. It wasn't like blood coming out.
Yeah.
It was like a scar or something, that kind of sort of like a scratch that you get, and there's a little redness and stuff. It was weird, but I mean, talk about a powerhouse dominant effort. She just blew away the field to smithereens.
Yeah. We also, before we talk about the 4-star Dave and Deterministic, we should talk a little bit about the inside for on the main track for Whitney Day. There's a fair argument that the inside was not necessarily the place to be. Yes.
I didn't see any kind of pronounced bias, in my opinion.
Well, I'm not going to say pronounced bias, but the one horse in the test died on the rail. Magnitude you know, was on the inside most of the way. We'll see.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
thought we'd mention it.
I'm very careful with biases,
Sure.
until horses come back and, prove that that really was detrimental to them, unless it's pronounced. I made no notation one way or the
Okay.
other.
Let's talk about Miguel Clement and deterministic. Nice effort.
Well, I mean, you talk about karma, man. I mean, we already got Bill Mott on his birthday is always live, right? In the Hall of Fame stakes, Daddy Clement, Christoph, was inaugurated into the Hall of Fame the same day as the race. And Miguel, who worked for his father for many years, as a kid growing up in the game, wins with Botas.
Yep.
You can't make that shit up. I mean, it was, out of a movie,
Very good.
and then he comes back the next day, and I mean, deterministic is just a monster. I mean, he trained like a monster. I tried to beat him with Will Walden's horse on the rail, who wore bar shoes, which I didn't know until late in the morning. Too late. But I did, in the wagers I gave out, I treated it as both horses equally. One of those was going to win the race. But deterministic is just a monster. Miguel Clement also won with a first-time starter on Saturday on the turf in a maiden race. He is having quite a meet. He's done an unbelievable job since taking over the horses since his father passed away.
All right, so that takes care of Whitney Saturday. Now let's go to Sunday. The interesting thing, the lead up to a Whitney card on a Saturday, followed by a rather uninteresting, full card of racing, but by comparison, kind of a dull card on Sunday. However, the card was full of tote board busting numbers and a couple of winners that not necessarily busted the tote board, but caused some conversation. Okay, I'm not saying anything untoward, illegal. Is at the bottom or at the start of this, but the bottom line is two horses here at Saratoga, last trained at Fair Hill for someone who I would call as an obscure trainer, run two races on the Sunday card. And ironically, a similar situation, horses prepped at Fair Hill, won two races in a row from an obscure trainer at Monmouth Park. Now, trainer Graham Motion actually had two first-time starters on turf sprints, and he's not a hot first out guy. They too were trained at Fair Hill. They were working in company, as were several of these other horses, and you're talking 6 double-digit wins. Michael, comment on this for us, will you? Because I know you've got the scoop.
Well, I'm starting the script for a Netflix series. And so I really, to appreciate this, I've printed out the past performances, the chart, everything from start to finish, because you have to understand it in the context of the same day, a condition book that wrote the right races for this betting opportunity.
Yes.
/ coup at two different tracks within about an hour and a half to 2 hours apart. And I have documented it carefully because I want to produce this film, because it could be the greatest racing caching calculating situation that we've ever seen. It's unbelievable. So let's start in race 3 at Monmouth. Post time 153. Okay. A horse that's 20 to 1 on the morning line named the Great Amira, trained by Angel Querez, and ridden by C.D. Lugo. Now, C.D. Lugo doesn't ride many races. He's rode 8 in 2006. He has a win, by the way, okay? But an Angel Querez has 2 wins out of 17 starters in 2006. The horse 26. Was 2026 this year, right? The horse is 20 to 1 on the morning line. According to my friend Brad Thomas, he was 8 to 1 on the open. Okay. And this horse stalks the pace. He goes off at 17 to 1. She goes off at 17 to 1. She wins by 9 lengths, ridden out with the consummate ease of a secretariat down the stretch, winning the Belmont Stakes. Wins and pays 37-20. Okay. So now the next part of this, we switch to Saratoga. We switch there 23 minutes later. And in from the AEs is the horse by the name of Scootaloo. Now, this is a different trainer and a different rider. This one is trained by a guy named Angel Quiroz. He also has 2 wins in 17 starts. So it's the same guy. Angel Quiroz is the same guy that won with the Great Amira, the first one at Monmouth, right? He owns this horse by himself. He's part owner of the one at Monmouth. Now, this one was on the AEs, so they didn't know if they were going to get in until late scratches.
It was the 14. It was the 14, wasn't
he? He actually was the 11.
The 11, okay.
Okay. But so they don't know. The others are getting in. He doesn't know he's getting in. So we kind of put an asterisk on this one. But this horse is ridden by Ricardo Santana. He gets left at the gate. He rears up at the start, gets left at the gate. He spots the field several lengths, and he makes this huge move, and he's wide, and he finishes like 4th. Finishes 4th, beaten like 5 lengths. So because he was on the AEs, they didn't know. I think this one is just a complete toss in this whole scheme of things. We go back to Monmouth Park. And Monmouth Park is the 4th race, post time 2:24. Now, at Monmouth Park, this horse is named Tepeyac, trained by Angel Quiroz, the same trainer as race 3 at Monmouth, and owned by Miriam Vargas. Okay, Miriam Vargas. Now, this horse is 9 to 2 on the morning line, opens up at 3 to 5. Okay, and actually drifts up to 7 to 2 at post. This horse gets left at the gate, makes a sustained wide move, and gets up to win by a half a length, paying $9.60. Now, you have a daily double situation, right? You have a $39 horse, right? $39.20 to be precise. Into the 4th race, a daily double, which it's a rolling double. You could play the double. This horse pays $9.60. The parlay is something like, what, $200, $150, something like, whatever. The daily double for $1 pays $12.80.
Bingo.
$12.80. Now, the question I have to ask, and I'd like to ask Mr. Angel Quiroz, is was he so stupid that, knowing the Monmouth pools aren't that big, that it would take a nice size double, right, to bet and drive something that should pay 150 to 200 to pay $25 for $2. So
Yeah.
you're actually betting against yourself. So what I would have liked to ask Mr. Quiros is, why didn't he just bet it offshore, that double? So to make sure that it didn't go in the pools. But I'm not sure he was smart enough to figure that out, because who would bet that double, that sizable amount of money? So they actually screwed themselves on the double, unless they bet offshore the win bet on both horses. I don't know. I would love to know when that decision. I'd like to know the diner, that the meeting between him and Lugo, and the money in the bag, in the brown bag, was decided on how this was going to be done. So that was the double at Monmouth. Okay. Now we get to race number 4 at Saratoga. And race 4 is another 25 minutes after the double cash at Monmouth. And in this race, there's a horse named Classic Rock. And Classic Rock is breaking from the rail. It's a trainer change to Ernesto Ochoa, who's won 2 races this year, but is basically, that's all he's won in 5 years, okay, for himself. So he claimed this horse back in November, or was previously trained by Eduardo Espora. I don't know when he bought this horse, but like you said, he went to Gulfstream. He worked the horse in May and June 3 times, then went to Fairhill under Cloak and Dagger, running some very slow works. He comes here and he puts on Ricardo Santana, and the horse won. Look at the fractions of this race. This was like a Breeders' Cup sprint effort for a maiden claiming $35,000 horse. 21-2, 44-2, 109-2, and finishes up 116-1, winning by 8 3/4 lengths under what they say driving. I don't know who was driving the car. It was Ricardo Santana. So I'm stunned. I get the call that what happened at Monmouth, but it's not this guy, Ernesto Ochoa. It's that other guy, Angel Quiros. So is it the same guy? Is it his cousin? Is it a bastard brother from another mother? I don't know who it is, but I'm kind of like shaking my head. Where did this come from? Okay, so now we go to now time has passed. We've kind of forgotten about this. Like, okay, he put this horse over. Okay, good for him. We come to race number 7. And I look down, I decide, oh, there's a horse, MB's Melanie Cares. Oh, it's Ernesto Ochoa, for Ernesto Ochoa and rider Ricardo Santana. I decide I want to go to the paddock and I want to look at this horse and the connections. Now, mind you, if you're trying to win a race or 2 races at Saratoga, you probably bring your silks. If you have silks, you probably want to make a little bit of a deal in the winner's circle. No silks. Substitute Saratoga.
Substitute silks.
Right. I go to the paddock. I go as close to the stall as I can. And there's one guy, and the valet. The valet saddles the horse, and the one guy, who I don't know if this is Ernesto Ochoa or his cousin or some friend from Canada or Cambodia, I have no idea, goes to Santana, says hardly anything, doesn't say anything. He smiles, and Santana nods. I'm trying to get close enough to hear any instructions. I hear none other than a smile and a smile. I go upstairs. I go to the roof. The horse jumps out to the lead, opens up 3.5, goes off at 12 almost 13-1 and wires the field paying 27.70. Now, I couldn't process it, Tom. Like it was too unbelievable that you had two situations like that. You had a sleepy Sunday at Saratoga, right, where Whitney Day's over. You have 4 tarps in the back where the peach chairs are. There's no one there. It's hot and humid, and these guys cash out big time, big time. And at Monmouth, back-to-back blowouts, back-to-back wins, won a blowout win with a $39 horse and a $25 double. I would love to know the particulars. My hat's off to them. I came home and my son said the internet is blowing up.
Absolutely.
And it did blow up. Now, look, we put over a horse, Lydio. Remember at
I remember.
Okay, I set the horse up just in putting him in spots he couldn't win. Like it was just sort of situational, right? And I got him in a spot at Keeneland and we cashed at $60 way back, right?
Way back.
So I love a setup for a score. God bless.
Let's make something clear here, okay? That rule 1 is not every horse entered in every race must be well meant to win. That's not in the rules. Every horse entered in every race must be race fit. So, and there was a time in this fair land when, primarily because of the purse structure, a lot of folks gave horses a race until they got them in what they thought was the right spot. Today, it's a little different because back in the day, nobody cared about trainer stats. Everybody cared about cashing tickets and cashing bets because the purse structure was totally different. Today, you've got the purse structure, plus you've got, if you want to call it, the accountability of trainer stats, okay? But what we're talking about here is set up and put over. And that's not necessarily illegal.
No, and all these horses had the same pattern: off layoffs, off works at Gulfstream, off works at Fairhill. Okay, so that's different. Remember when we put over Street Trust at Saratoga on Labor Day 4 or 5 years ago? I had told you Street Trust was on a dead rail at Colonial. Okay.
Right.
I didn't plan that. The horse was on a dead rail, and I knew that was a legitimate excuse to come to Saratoga. He was racing fit. He just had an excuse that unless you're following Colonial on a dead rail, when I put over Lydio, I ran him in 1 mile 3/8 on the turf and told Frankie Lovato, go 22-3, 46-1, open up 20 and die, because I was cutting him back to 1 mile 1/8. And I put on a jockey from River Downs, and I beat an allowance field with Charlie Whittingham, Shug McGahee, Billy Mott, and paid $60. That was just orchestration. That's using brains, right? This is using brains, but I'd like to know if there's another underbelly story, another story. All I could say is, we're not judge and jury. Let Heisa figure that out. Let whoever figure that out. I'm just saying it was brilliant. They got screwed at Monmouth on the double, bunch of idiots if that's what they played, because you don't do that, right? You play it offshore and you let the double's going to pay what it is, and you're going to get the offshore money. So I don't think they were that smart. They're smart at putting the horse over, and however they did it, they don't necessarily mean they can bet right? You can't, it's hard to do the two. All I know is they scored out, they got the money, they're smoking big cigars in Caracas, wherever they are, and everybody's having a nice meal of rice and beans and arroz con pollo tonight. I mean, I don't know what to say other than the perception is not good on the internet. I'd like nice Heisa to go and dig deep as you can and find out the real story so I can finish my Netflix 4-part series on this and win the Academy Award or the special award for producing this score and betting coup of modern day history in horse racing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Obscure trainers, we see them at Saratoga every once in a while. And, when Johnny Velasquez, Hall of Fame jockey, or a jockey with any stature ends up riding for an obscure trainer, we're all trained to pay a little bit of attention to that. You could say both these trainers at both tracks were obscure. Santana is, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's a well-respected rider. Are these trainers beards, Wiz?
Look, I'll tell you, I have to add that after the second horse won the race, I went down to the winner's circle, and they weren't interviewing the trainer because he didn't speak a word of English, right? So they interviewed Ricardo Santana, and it was Acacia, right?
And he was muted.
What she said was, you were on some live mounts. Did you know they were that live? Something to that effect.
Right.
And he goes, no, I didn't. I knew they had speed. I knew they had speed. I said, but maybe my agent knew. And I loved it. Maybe the agent knew. So, look, Bobby Dunham, the great Bobby Dunham, right, put over some great scores with Mike Venezia on back in the day, right?
That's right.
Then we've seen guys like Oscar Barrera, Navarro, Jason Service. Both of those guys put out to pasture for illegal drugs, medication.
Yeah.
Dave Monacy, illegal drugs, medication. So I don't know if these two characters are Dunham setting up a horse and whatever, but it's different. Dunham would use races.
Yeah.
Right? He would use races, find the spot, and then Venezia would get the job done. This is off a long layoff, claiming crap, running like Secretariat in the stretch, right? I mean, this was ridiculous. I could tell you what I think, read between the lines. I don't want to get sued. I still have a family to support. I have you to support. I don't want to be behind bars, but I just can't believe what my eyes saw. This was fantastic.
And so, it's why who's the guy who robbed and jumped out of the plane? Was it DB Cooper?
Yeah, I don't know.
He accomplished a huge heist and managed to jump out of a plane in the Rockies or something, and they're still looking for. So to the one hand,
Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 is a story.
Well, okay, the same, because you're rooting for the guys who are going to do the heist, if you will, watching the film, and you're respecting, the ingenuity that goes into the setup and the plan and everything like that. So I certainly understand what you're saying. So they did it.
Tom, Tom, how would you feel if you were these characters' cousin and you knew at Monmouth they were going to put over these two horses, right? And you see the double paying 175 with 3 or 4 minutes to go, and you go and you bet it, and they don't tell you they're betting with 1 minute to go, and then you win the double, and you think you're getting 175, and you get a big $12.50 for $1. You want to vomit. So I wish it was a great put over. I don't know how they did it. I'd like to know why. I'd like to know how much money they won. I'd like to know all the details of this, because on a sleepy Sunday, it wasn't so sleepy around
No.
4 o'clock when the internet started blowing up, and you had your guy, what's the guy, the Barstool guy, going ballistic.
Portnoy.
Portnoy going ballistic, using obscenities on, fuck this, screw this, screw this, screw this. This is crazy. Look, we weren't in on the coup. No one was in on the coup but these people. The perception is what it is. Let's find out more. I hope we do.
And the real interesting thing to me right now is, will there be any more conversation other than?
Well, let me tell you something. We're recording this about 2 hours before the next one is supposed to run.
Oh.
Today, the same scenario is occurring at Presque Isle.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I wanted to see if there's more to the story. If today they're taking some of those winnings and going, I will be watching this from wherever I am. Now, we missed the wedding. So I don't want to go to the funeral. I'm thinking they know there's a scent on their trail. There's a scent, a bad scent, a stench, that today they tell the jockey, today's no go, because there's a scent. But today at 6:15 or 6:30 at Presque Isle, it's the same guy, one of those guys, right? With the same.
He's gotten a lot of horses of late, hasn't he?
Has he really? I gotta send him one. I'm thinking of sending him one and seeing if I can cash a ticket at this meet. It's unbelievable. You got to admit, it's racing lore. It's the shades of the past. I don't know, Tony Chula. Remember Tony Chula?
That's right.
I mean, maybe it's the cousin of Chula. Maybe it's it's Navarro and Service, like getting together at a diner. Who knows? There is an underbelly, and I'd like to know it.
Always. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to bring us to the end of this show. And we'll follow, and we'll talk about this next week. Wiz posted a fantastic interview with the chart callers, the
Equibase chart callers.
Yeah, Equibase chart callers. They're wonderful guys. They work awful hard. They write not a novel, but an essay 12 times a day, 14 times a day.
Well, I was heading down to the paddock for the last race to hear Centeno, whoever was going to be interviewed. I turned to the chart caller and I said, "We just saw Seattle Slew." And he just turned and he looked at me and he gave me this big smile and he just said, "Wowza." Wowza.
Yeah. And the betting window will or is planned to be available at DRF this week, perhaps?
Yes, it's on Wizard Racing Sports from the beginning of the week, beginning of the meet. Hopefully Wednesday, it's launched on the DRF, and that all the things they have planned to promote it is executed. And if it is, I just better perform. I'll have my opportunity. Maybe I'll find that $40 winner. That's
golly
shipping
gee,
in.
we hope so.
I sure hope so too, Tom. And it's probably going to be off a layoff in training at Fairhill.
Yeah, at Fairhill.
Right, with Lugo. With Lugo, no Ricardo. I want Lugo on.
Yeah. Just to mention, many years ago, Fairhill had a wood chip training track, and a lot of horses were legged up on the wood chips early on, and would ship out to run on turf, and they just they'd be conditioned and they just run off. I'm partial to horses who work on the synthetics at Fairhill or who run synthetics and then shift to dirt or turf, because I think that surface does leg horses up. We'll find out. We'll find out when we get our Tapeta at Belmont.
Yeah, I just want to make note that Kerry Breon, who stables all her horses at Fairhill, hasn't gotten the message because she hasn't gotten the memo because she's like 0 for 19 here off the Fairhill. So I think that she should go on a dating app, find this Ochoa chap, and see if they can get a drink together and figure out on, one of those dating apps like, what's the deal, guy? I need a winner at Saratoga. Can you help me out?
Babu would say, you're Betty, 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 bad man. Anyhow, thank you for joining us today on Get Tied On. There'll be more interviews. Who are you interviewing this week?
So we got Bobby Dunham coming on next. This be the next interview, hopefully. I got to grab him at his barn at 10:30 and have some wild turkey. He's requested iced coffee with a shot of wild turkey.
Okay.
So that's an interview that I am looking forward to having. And then I also have, it's either him, Dunham will be on in the next 2 weeks, but the other guy, it's either going to be him or Dave Grenick. Mm-hmm. I'm having Dave on, the writer for the Daily Racing Form, who's very happy to be on the show, and that'll be a great interview. It's
you have to recall that the late Harvey Pack used to call him the hardest working man in racing.
I'll tell you, the guy is a workhorse. He's unbelievable. I mean, he does helps with the Clocker report. He was at the back stretch at 8:30 in the morning interviewing Baffert on Sunday. He really is. He really is a hard worker. I'd like to know his story because he's been around the game a long time.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. See us next week.